Well, hello, my YouTube friends. So I was splitting logs and hitting them with hitting the wedge with this hammer, and it eventually broke. It was already like damaged here, and I had 3 hose clamps because it was kind of splinter, if you know what I mean. But these with 3 hose clamps, it held it together. It was nice and strong, but I did eventually like break it because I missed the wedge, and the wedge hit right here, right, and it snapped it off. The wood was old. Luckily, I had this spare sledgehammer handle that I bought for $2 at an estate sale, and this is a Hubbard 8-pound sledge. So I wanted to hurry up and get back to work. So I didn't make a video of the repair process of this, but what I did was I cleaned out the head of, the hammer, I will call it, and I slid it down on this. So I held it in this manner, right? Oh, and then just banged it like that and let gravity and inertia drive it onto the handle. Although I forgot to mention, before I did that, I just wrapped some tape right here and then put a hose clamp around this end. That would prevent it from splitting off this way, because I pounded it, on the concrete to protect this end. So, and that would only drive this on part way. And then I would support it on the 2 sawhorses, like right here, it would be vertical. And I took a bolt, although not this particular bolt, just like this, and tapped on it right here to drive out the handle. Now, it only went part way on, and it left a mark on the wood. So I took the rasp, and I just started taking the wood down, making it smaller and smaller. And then each time it would go down a little bit more, and then I would repeat the process. And so I got it on there pretty good, all the way down almost. A bunch of wood was sticking out right here. So I cut that off with the miter saw and then kept pounding it down, and then filing right here. And the hammer, by leaving its marks on the wood, showed me exactly where I needed to take wood down with this rat tail or rasp or whatever it's called. And so little by little, that was a little process. So I got all the way on there. I went to the hardware store, bought some wedges, and also saw these wood wedges. We'll get to that in a second. So I was able to drive that wedge in there, and then I used just any random piece of steel that I had to drive it in, right? And I would hit the piece of steel to drive the wedge down the rest of the way. Now, I got this solid braided nylon rope, and I wrapped that around real tight. So like right here, you can see that at the end, this camera, so it always goes under right there at the end. It came out right there. I tied a little knot to help prevent it from backing out. And I have this there because I like to hold it right here and hit it like this to set the wedge. And I put this is a part of an old radiator hose. Right, and I slid that over there, and then I got the clamp on that just to help protect the wood, should I miss with the, when I'm hitting the hammer. And the rope is like that on both ends. So that's the repair of this, or the replacement of the wood handle. Now, I like old things to remind me of how things used to be, and the history, not just old coins, but other old objects, tools and stuff. So that hammer is a Hubbard, and this one has the word plum. You can kind of see it right there. And I bought this at an estate sale. I've never used it as a hammer on this side, and only given it like very light duty chopping, but I was using it during this process, and the handle, it kept getting looser and looser and was coming out, and I had to push it back on. There was like nails and stuff driven in there, two nails and a wood screw, but those are not wedges, right? That's not the proper repair that some other old dude effected, who knows how many years ago. I had to glue on this piece of wood right there. I already shaved it down, like the glue bubbles that came out, because there was a piece of it was loose right there, and another piece was loose right there. So I already took the knife and shaved off the extra glue. You can kind of see it right there. And then I took these wooden wedges, right, and I did my best to fit them to see how they're going to go in there. And I'm gonna slather some glue on them, and then put them on there and jam them in there, and hopefully the glue will help hold it. Now I had to prep the hatchet because this edge, it was like very sharp, and it had a lip right there, and it would shave if I push it too hard, it would shave the wood. You don't want these to shave the wood. So I filed the inside to get it flat, and then I put a bevel on it to prevent that. So, but other than that, it's unmolested. In fact, I've never even sharpened it. I may do that one day, I don't know. So I'm gonna put that on there, glue these up real good, drive them in, let that set up for a few days. I put this rope on it many years ago when I first got it. And you can see how it goes under right there. There's a little technique that I learned in my knot tying book, and that never unwound itself. Right here, I put a knot to help it, but it never tried to unwind itself either. And instead of putting tape on it, right, because it probably was giving me splinters or whatever, so I wrapped it like this, and I like that feel, and I don't want to throw this away yet. Hopefully this repair will be effective, and it'll give me a few more years of service. Otherwise, I might have to go to this axe handle for the hatchet. I don't really want to do that, but I will, if this one fails. Okay, let me glue this up, drive them wedges in there, and I'll let it sit up for a couple days, and then I'll get back to you. All right, stand by. All right, well, it's tomorrow now. So I put the wedges, I hammered them in there. You can see that one right there, it's split, and I was able to drive that side down a little bit farther. I hammered it till it started to splinter and kind of mushroom out on top. I thought I was going to have room for 3 pieces of wedge, but really only had room for that other smaller one right there. Used a liberal amount of glue. So there you can see it had the word plum. And this is an interesting hatchet. Hopefully that'll get me a few more years of service. It gets light duty, right? I just split some pieces of kindling and stuff like that. I don't make it work too hard these days. I did take a file to it, and it has an interesting shape, right? If you look at the forging, it's flat on this side, right? And then it curves like down right there. Of course, it was in that condition when I took possession of it. I don't know if years ago I had a proper point on it. I doubt it. That's probably close to the original point, the original configuration. So you can see, so I filed it, but I didn't go all the way to the edge on this one. See that dark right there? But on this side, I did go all the way to the edge. it was easier to do so because of the way it was previously sharpened. So, but that'll do. That's all I need. I don't need a razor on with this little hand tool. So, all right, just wanted to show you the result and you know, give you guys some ideas on how to repair basic hand tools. All right, my friends, you have a good day.